In Washington today, politics likely will be set aside as the nation and the president pause to mark Memorial Day. But some recent controversies will continue to roil the Obama administration in the coming days. NBC's White House correspondent Kristen Welker has the latest. Kristen, good morning.
Willie, good morning to you. President Obama has tried to divert the conversation away from those thorny issues. Well, Memorial Day will do that temporarily as the president prepares to honor those who have served and made the ultimate sacrifice. And it comes on the heels of an emotional visit to Oklahoma on Sunday. With a trifecta of controversies hovering over his administration, President Obama visited tornado-ravaged Moore, Oklahoma on Sunday, comforting those who lost everything and delivering a message of hope.
We know Moore is going to come back stronger from this tragedy.
Back in Washington, fresh criticism of the president on the Sunday talk shows over Benghazi, the IRS, and Justice Department.
I think he's really losing the moral authority to lead this nation.
With the DOJ under fire for seizing journalists' phone records as a part of a leak investigation, the president has ordered Attorney General Eric Holder to review his own policies. Not good enough, said Republicans.
Well, this would be a good time to have a special counsel come forward or some independent group to look at it.
Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer said he plans to introduce a bipartisan-backed bill that would require the government to get approval from a judge before pursuing journalists' records.
You always need set rules and an independent arbiter. We have neither now.
Republicans also took aim at the president's revamped counterterrorism policy, in which he called for a limited use of drones and closing Guantanamo Bay, arguing the war on terror is winding down.
At a time we need resolve the most, we're sounding retreat.
In defense mode, Democrats insisted the president wouldn't let up his fight against al-Qaeda and said it is time to change course.
If we are constantly thinking of this in the context of war, we stand the very real risk of doing things which compromise our values and freedoms.
Now, the president will start the day by hosting a breakfast here at the White House for families who've lost loved ones in combat. He will then lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns and deliver a Memorial Day address. Congress is on recess but has vowed to keep up its investigation into the IRS and DOJ controversies. Willie.
Kristen Welker beginning her Memorial Day at the White House. Kristen, thanks so much. Mark Halperin is a senior political analyst for Time Magazine and MSNBC. Mark, good to see you.
Morning, Willie.
Obviously, Oklahoma last week took a lot of the country's attention, but there are three ongoing controversies that could involve the White House. That it certainly has the White House's attention. We're talking about the IRS, the Justice Department, and Benghazi. A quick update on all three.
They're all going to go a little bit more below the radar. Congress is out, as Kristen said. Congress is now going to investigate these. In two of the three, the president agrees there needs to be more investigation. Looking into reporters, wiretapping reporters, looking at their phone records and emails, and in the case of the IRS, even the president says those needs to be investigated. Benghazi as well, all subject of Republicans taking a look quietly behind the scenes, and most Republicans are saying the smart strategy is, and the right thing to do, don't call for impeachment, don't try to shout from the rooftops every day about these, but investigate the facts. That's good for the country because we do need to know in each case what exactly happened.
A lot of the Congress people looking into these, a lot of Americans want to know if any of these three lead back to the White House. That obviously would cause these scandals to explode. Is there any evidence at this point that any of these are connected to the White House?
There's no indication right now that the president himself did anything that I think people would say that was inappropriate. But there is a lot of question about other people around the president, what they did, as well as the question of responsibility. If the president didn't know in these cases, do we need to change the system so that the president himself has more oversight over some of these areas? As I say, these are going to be investigated. There's still questions.
Do any of these, Mark, begin to derail President Obama's second-term agenda? He'd love to get a budget deal. He'd love to go in on immigration, perhaps go back to the issue of guns. What do all these ongoing controversies mean to what he wants to do?
It makes it a lot harder. It's challenging for a president to deal with scandal and controversy when one party's investigating him in the morning and then in the afternoon try to figure out a way to make deals. Making deals with Republicans was hard before. It's harder now. The president's going to have to say in the next few weeks, I think, if he's going to salvage this term, get things done on some of the big issues you talked about, immigration and maybe guns and certainly on the budget, can he work with Republicans even though a lot of them are spending a lot of their time investigating him and raising questions about his administration?
The president made a big speech on Thursday, which may trump all of this in the long term when history looks back on it, where he said he wanted to take America off its perpetual war footing. That was his line. What does that mean practically? What's his vision for the country?
Look, on Memorial Day, we all want to pay tribute to and thank the families of those and those who gave their lives. It's a big issue. National security is something a president has first and foremost. You're right. That speech, probably one of the biggest speeches he'll give as president, to change the way the United States thinks about our security at home and abroad. Tons of issues raised in the speech. I think we're going to debate that speech and the issues the president raised, not just during his term, but into the next presidency.
There's some people who actually were confused by the speech, given that this is a president who added troops in Afghanistan, a president who has used drones more liberally than the previous president, that he is the one saying, let's step back from all this. Is this a return to candidate Barack Obama in 2008?
In a lot of ways it is, and I think part of what the president wanted to do was to say, in effect, I inherited a lot of policies from George Bush. I inherited wars and a situation which I couldn't change right away. Now he's thinking about his legacy, about how he turns as he thinks about leaving office, handing things off to his successor. How does he want to leave those policies? Again, I think more than settling a lot of these big issues, Afghanistan, war on terror, drone policy, it's opening up a debate that he will engage in, and we're going to have the next presidential campaign. A lot of these issues will be engaged for the post-Obama era.
Mark Halpern joining us on Memorial Day. Mark, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Willie.